Get your filthy hands off my shoes. Do you even know who I am? The voice tore through Balogun Market like a whip. Heads turned, whispers followed. The hot Lagos air seemed to hold its breath. There she stood, Nia Adesanya, her hands blackened with polish, her heart beating fast but steady. The man towering over her wore a navy blue suit and gold-plated cufflinks, the kind that screamed wealth without apology. His leather shoes gleamed like mirrors, except for one stubborn scratch. He pointed at it like it was a sin. You ruined my shoes. These cost more than your life. For a moment, Nia didn't speak. She just looked at him, calm, quiet, and unbroken. The crowd expected her to cry, to beg, to shrink back like others before her. But she only said softly, "Sir, I did not ruin your shoes. I only cleaned the dirt life put on them." Her voice was low, respectful, but every word struck like a drumbeat. He scoffed. "Nonsense. You're just another poor girl pretending to have pride." Then he tossed a few notes at her, crumpled Naira bills, like he was feeding a stray dog. They fluttered to the ground. Nia didn't move. The market fell into a hush. Even the hawkers stopped mid-sentence. "Pick it up," he barked. "No," she said simply. "My father taught me that the money earned with shame buys you nothing but hunger." The man's jaw tightened. He turned and stormed off, leaving laughter, murmurs, and scattered paper in his wake. And Nia just bent down, not for the money, but for her father's old wooden brush that had fallen from her hand. She held it close like something holy. "Hello, family. Welcome back. Before we continue, I have a small but heartfelt request. Please subscribe. Your support is what keeps stories like this alive. Every time you subscribe, you help us share more hope, more courage, more love." Now, let's go back to Nia, the girl who refused to bow. The sun burned hot above Lagos Island. Vendors shouted about tomatoes, perfume oils, Ankara fabrics. The smell of roasted corn and diesel mixed with the thick scent of polish and sweat. Nia's stall sat near a narrow alley, small, shaded, with one broken fan that hummed without moving air. On her bench lay her tools, an old hammer, a tin of black polish, a half-torn cloth, and a photograph of her father. He'd been gone a year now, but his words still filled her every breath. Never despise small beginnings. The hand that works with honesty will one day feed nations. So she worked, even when they laughed. Even when other traders whispered, "Fine girl like this, repairing shoes. She should marry rich instead." They didn't know she was studying business administration at night. They didn't know she dreamed of building her own brand one day, Adesanya Leatherworks. They didn't know she prayed every morning before opening her stall, whispering, "God, give me strength to make today worth something." That afternoon, the sky shifted. Clouds gathered over the market like secrets waiting to fall. A black SUV rolled slowly down the narrow lane, its tinted windows cutting through the chaos. People stepped aside, murmuring, "And a big man oh." Inside sat Ethan Cole Adesanya, watching through the glass. He had returned from America only 2 weeks ago, the billionaire son of the late Chief Adesanya, owner of Adesanya Energy Group. He came to Lagos to expand his empire, not to stroll through markets. But something about the chaos fascinated him, the smell, the energy, the human noise of life. He was here for a business site inspection near Balogun. His Italian shoes, navy blue with golden stitching, were now coated in Lagos dust. His assistant offered to call someone, but he waved it off. He wanted to see this place for himself. That's when he heard the commotion, a man shouting, a crowd gathering, a girl refusing to bow. Through the half-open window, he saw her. Black apron, hands stained with polish, hair tied with a red scarf. She looked ordinary, yet not ordinary at all. There was something sacred in her defiance, something that stirred him in a way boardrooms never did. "Who is she?" Ethan asked quietly. "Just a cobbler, sir," his driver replied. "They are plenty here." But Ethan kept looking. Something about her steadiness against humiliation, the way she stood her ground when others mocked, held him captive. He remembered his own father once saying, "You can lose everything in this world, but never lose your dignity." He had forgotten that until now. The market began to move again. Life went on. But Ethan didn't. He opened the SUV door and stepped out. The crowd gasped, not because of who he was, but because of how he looked. Navy blue suit, gold cufflinks, confidence wrapped in silence. He walked up to Nia's stall. She didn't look up. She was still polishing the same pair of dusty shoes, her hands trembling slightly but her face calm. "How much to fix these?" he asked. She blinked, startled by the soft, deep voice. 5,000 naira, sir. He nodded. Done. She took the shoes gently, as though touching something fragile. He watched her work, her fingers precise, her motions rhythmic, almost prayerful. When she was done, she placed the shoes before him. They are ready, sir. Ethan slipped his hand into his pocket and left an envelope on her work table. You've reminded me, he said quietly, what real work looks like. Then he turned and walked away. Nia stared at the envelope, her reflection glinting in its smooth white surface. Slowly, she opened it. Inside, 1 million Nigerian nairas. The market erupted. 1 million. Ha! Nia, your destiny has changed. But she just stood still, tears blurring her sight. Her father's photo seemed to smile from the corner of her stall. She whispered, almost to herself. He said the hand that works with honesty will one day feed nations. Maybe that day has come. As Ethan's SUV pulled away, he looked back through the mirror. She was still standing there, proud, stunned, shining. He didn't know it yet, but that dusty alley was about to change his life forever. That was the day two worlds collided, the billionaire who had everything, and the shoemaker's daughter who had nothing but dignity. Why do I keep seeing her face? Ethan Adesanya leaned back in his leather chair, staring through the glass wall of his Lekki office. Below him, Lagos glittered in the night, headlights crawling like fireflies, waves whispering against the shore. His assistant spoke, but their words floated past him, meaningless. All he could see was her, the shoemaker's daughter from Balogun Market. Her steady hands, her quiet defiance, her refusal to bow. You've reminded me what real work looks like. He had said it and left, thinking he'd forget by morning. But he hadn't. Her voice, her stillness, her strength, they followed him like music that refused to stop. He had met countless women, models, heiresses, executives, but none had ever made him feel small in the best possible way. 2 days later, the sun rose over Lagos in full golden strength. The streets pulsed with sound, horns blaring, hawkers shouting, the scent of a car frying in the morning oil. Ethan's driver, Musa, looked at him through the rearview mirror. Oga, straight to the refinery meeting, sir. Ethan hesitated. Then quietly, not yet. Let's stop at Balogun Market first. Musa blinked. Market? At this hour? Just drive. The SUV rolled through the early bustle. Women in wrappers arranged tomatoes in baskets. Men dragged wheelbarrows stacked with shoes, belts, and dreams. The market was alive again, the same market that had changed everything. When the car stopped near the shoe stalls, Ethan stepped out, ignoring the stares. His gold wristwatch caught the light. His navy blue shirt gleamed crisp against the morning dust. But the stall, her stall, was empty. Only a folded umbrella, a wooden bench, and a faded sign read, Nia Adesanya, shoe repair and polishing. He asked around. Ah, she go school this morning, one trader said. She day part-time university for Yaba. She go come back by afternoon, another added. Fine girl, respectful girl. N.A. her father's shoe bench be that. Ethan smiled faintly. A student, a hustler, a dreamer. He felt something warm move through him, respect. He left quietly, but his mind didn't. That afternoon, the heat was merciless. The market shimmered beneath it, and Nia returned, a bag slung across her shoulder, her eyes tired but alive. She set down her books, tied her apron, and whispered her usual prayer before picking up a brush. Lord, let today bring purpose. Minutes later, she noticed the shadow fall across her table. When she looked up, her breath caught. He was back. Ethan stood there, not in a suit this time, but in a white cotton shirt, sleeves rolled, no tie. Simpler, softer, human. You, she whispered, surprised. Yes, me. He smiled, not the polished kind meant for cameras, but something unguarded. I came to see if your shoes are still saving lives. She laughed nervously. I don't save lives, sir. I just save souls. He chuckled. You have no idea how true that sounds. The crowd around them whispered. That's the billionaire. N.A. the girl we collect 1 million. He come again oh. But Nia kept her focus on the shoes before her. What brings you back, sir? Honesty, he said simply. I came back to remember what it looks like. The words hung in the air, heavy, sincere, unexpected. They sat there for almost an hour. He asked about her studies, her father, her dreams. She spoke quietly, but with conviction. She told him about her father's lessons, about the dignity of small work. She told him she wanted to open a workshop one day, not just for money, but to teach other girls not to be ashamed of sweat. And Ethan listened, truly listened, like a man who had just discovered language. Every word she said filled a hollow he didn't know existed. That evening, back in his office, his friend and business partner, Charles, leaned against the desk. "Bro, why are you wasting time in the market? That girl, she's just a cobbler." Ethan looked up slowly. "She's not just anything, Charles. She's the most grounded person I've met in years." Charles laughed. "You're losing it. You can buy anything you want, cars, houses, women. Don't tell me a girl who shines shoes is the one shaking your world." Ethan's gaze was steady. Maybe that's exactly why she is. He didn't sleep that night. He thought of her father's old hammer, her smile under the Lagos sun, her eyes that didn't flinch when insulted. He realized he wasn't just intrigued, he was changing. The next morning, a delivery truck pulled up in Balogun Market. Workers carried out boxes, new tools, Polish kits, sewing machines, quality leather, and a note attached to one of them read, "For the dreamer who reminds us that greatness begins with small hands. ECA." When Nia saw it, she froze. Then smiled, small, quiet, disbelieving. She didn't need to guess who sent it. That evening, as the market closed, Ethan's phone buzzed. A message. Unknown number. "Nia, thank you. But please, don't pity me. I can work for anything I need." He smiled at the screen, his chest warm with admiration. "Ethan, it's not pity, Nia. It's respect." Her reply came a minute later. "Nia, then respect me enough to let me pay you back someday." "Ethan, deal." And just like that, a quiet fire began, not loud, not rushed, but steady as a heartbeat. You see how fate works? Sometimes love doesn't begin with fireworks. It begins with respect. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do. Through these stories, we share hope, dignity, and faith in what love can rebuild. "You shouldn't have come back," Nia said quietly. Her voice was steady, but her hands betrayed her, trembling slightly as she packed her brushes. The evening market was closing. The vendors were shutting their stalls, the smell of roasted corn mixing with the salty air drifting from the lagoon. But Ethan stood there, calm as dusk, watching her. His white shirt caught the glow of the fading sun, and for a brief moment, it seemed like light itself had chosen to linger around him. "Maybe I shouldn't have," he replied, smiling faintly. "But I couldn't help it." She sighed, shaking her head. "People are already talking, sir." "Let them," he said simply. "People always talk. But truth doesn't need permission to exist." Her eyes flicked up to his. And for the first time, she saw something in them that startled her, gentleness. That evening, when Nia returned home, a small one-room apartment behind the market, she found an envelope slipped beneath her door. Inside was a simple note. "Meet me at Freedom Park tomorrow, 7 p.m. No cameras. No press. Just you and me. ECA." She stared at it for a long time. Her heart said go. Her pride said don't. By 6:45 the next evening, she was there. The park was quiet, warm streetlights flickering over the cobblestones, trees whispering in the gentle Lagos breeze. The sound of distant music floated from a jazz band across the lawn. Then she saw him, sitting by a small table under a canopy of fairy lights. No security, no photographers, no crowd. Just Ethan, the billionaire, dressed simply in a white linen shirt and dark jeans, pouring palm wine into 2 small calabashes. "You came," he said, rising to greet her. "You don't look like a man who gives up easily," she said, half smiling. He laughed, soft, genuine, unpolished. The kind of laugh that doesn't belong to billionaires but to men who have rediscovered joy. They Saturday. The table was simple, grilled fish, jollof rice, suya, and roasted plantain. The kind of meal you share with someone real. "I wanted tonight to be normal," Ethan said. "No titles. No bodyguards. No expectations. Just 2 people eating dinner. 2 people from different worlds," she added. He nodded. "Different, yes. But maybe the same in the ways that matter." For a while, they talked about everything and nothing. Nia told him stories about her father, how he built shoes from scraps, how he sang Yoruba hymns while stitching leather, how he believed that every pair of shoes carried a prayer for the one who would wear them. Ethan listened, completely absorbed. "He sounds like a man who understood purpose," Ethan said softly. He did. He used to say, "A man who repairs what others throw away will never be useless." Ethan smiled. Your father must be proud of you." "Maybe," she whispered. "Or maybe he's laughing from heaven, seeing me sitting here with a billionaire." He chuckled. "I think he's just glad his daughter still remembers his words." As the night deepened, something shifted between them. The air grew softer, the silence thicker. He leaned forward slightly, his voice low. "You know, when I first came back to Nigeria, I thought I was here to build oil refineries. But now I see. I was here to rebuild myself." "You don't seem broken," she said gently. "Oh, I am," he replied. "Money fixes walls, Nia. It doesn't fix hearts." She looked at him for a long moment. The city lights shimmered in his eyes. And for the first time, she saw the loneliness behind the confidence. "Maybe," she said softly, "you're not broken. Maybe you're just waiting to begin again." He smiled at that, a smile that carried gratitude and something else, something fragile and new. The band began to play a slow song, saxophone notes drifting across the night air. Ethan stood up and extended a hand. "Dance with me." "Here, in front of everyone." "There's no one else here," he said. "Just us." She hesitated. Then she placed her hand in his. And they danced. Slow, uncertain at first, then with growing ease. Her head rested lightly against his shoulder. His breath brushed her hair. The world around them faded, the noise, the fame, the market, the class divide, until all that remained was rhythm and warmth. He whispered, almost to himself, "I came here thinking I'd teach Nigerians business. But you, Nia, you're teaching me humanity." She froze for a second, overwhelmed. "Ethan," she began, but her voice faltered. "I know," he said softly. "It's too soon. But I had to tell you." She stepped back, her eyes glistening. "People will laugh. They'll say I trapped you." "Let them laugh," he said, reaching for her hand again. "I've lived among the rich all my life. None of them ever made me feel this rich." Her eyes softened. For a moment, they just stood there, two souls from different worlds, meeting in the middle. When he finally dropped her off near her street, she turned to him and said, "You're different, Ethan. But be careful. This country loves to break people who stand out." He nodded. "Let them try. I've already found what I didn't know I was looking for." She smiled, stepped out, and disappeared into the narrow alley. Ethan watched her go, the rhythm of her steps echoing in his chest. He whispered to himself. She was not broken. She was free. And in that freedom, he found himself slowly falling, not into lust, not into curiosity, but into something purer, something deeper. Family, if you're still watching, thank you. Please subscribe, because through stories like this, we remind the world that love can cross any boundary, that dignity can meet destiny, and that sometimes, the smallest people teach the biggest hearts. What nonsense headline is this? Ethan's voice thundered through the living room. The newspaper in his hand trembled with rage. Bold black letters screamed across the front page. "Billionaire falls for ShoeMaker's daughter. Is this love or madness?" His assistant, visibly shaken, stammered, "Sir, it's all over the blogs. Someone must have taken pictures at Freedom Park." Ethan's eyes darkened. "I told them, no cameras, no press." He slammed the paper down. The photo glared back at him and Nia under the fairy lights, dancing, smiling, close. To the world, it was scandal. To him, it was sacred. But the world doesn't understand sacred things. By midday, the entire country was talking. Social media erupted. How can a billionaire date a market girl? She must have used jazz. This kind story day make young girls think poverty is a blessing. And beneath the noise, somewhere in the center of Lagos, Nia sat in her small room, staring at her phone screen. Her name, was everywhere. Photos of her stall, of her with Ethan. Even the market women whispered louder than usual. When she stepped into Balogun that morning, eyes followed her like shadows. Some clapped for her, others spat quietly in jealousy. "Fine girl, don't make it," one said. "Make it or destroy herself," another replied. But she walked on, head high, steps steady, even when her heart trembled. That evening, Ethan arrived at her stall. He didn't care about the crowd, didn't care about the flashing phones or the murmurs. He stood tall, his voice calm but commanding. "Nia, we need to talk." "Not here," she said quietly, glancing at the growing crowd. He nodded. "Then come with me." They drove in silence, through the bustling city, until they reached a quiet garden near Ikoyi Bridge, far from the noise, far from judgment. The sky glowed orange with sunset. He turned to her. "I'm sorry this happened." "You shouldn't be," she said softly. "The world was always going to find out. I thought I could protect you." She looked at him, tired, brave, but unbroken. "You can't protect me from what I was born into. I'm used to dust, to gossip, to small minds. What scares me isn't their noise, Ethan. It's losing myself in the middle of it." Her words hit him like rain on a dry roof, gentle, but impossible to ignore. "You won't lose yourself," he said firmly. "Not while I'm here. And what if your world rejects me? What if they tell you I'm beneath you?" He smiled faintly. "Then I'll remind them that soil is beneath us too, and still, that's where life grows." She went silent. The evening breeze played with her scarf, and for a moment, the world stood still again. But the storm wasn't done. The next day, Ethan's board of directors held an emergency meeting. The room was full of tension, powerful men in suits whispering about damage control. "Mr. Adesanya," one of them said, "this relationship could affect investor confidence. We suggest you end it quietly." Ethan folded his hands. "End it?" "Yes, sir. Before it becomes a distraction. She's not suitable for your image." He stared at them for a long, cold minute. Then he said quietly, "Gentlemen, I'd rather lose a few investors than lose my integrity." A stunned silence filled the room. Meeting adjourned. He walked out before anyone could reply. Meanwhile, in Balogun Market, Nia faced her own trial. Her friend Ngozi pulled her aside. "Nia, people are saying all sorts of things. Some even say he's using you for publicity." "I know," Nia whispered. "Do you love him?" She looked down at her stained apron, her rough hands. Then she smiled faintly. "I don't know if it's love yet, but I know he sees me, not as a story, not as a scandal, but as a person." Ngozi sighed. "Then hold on to that, because not everyone gets to be seen like that." That night, Nia's phone rang. "Mama," she answered softly. "Nia, what have you done?" Her mother's voice trembled over the line. "Your father died with pride in his hands, and you're giving it away for love." Nia's eyes filled with tears. "Mama, I'm not ashamed of love. The world will shame you." "Then let them try," she said, her voice breaking, "because I've worked too hard to be small again." She ended the call gently, sat on the edge of her bed, and cried, quietly, without noise. The next morning, Ethan showed up again. He parked his car right in front of her stall, ignoring the photographers now pretending to buy shoes. He knelt, right there, in front of everyone. "Ethan, get up," she whispered, horrified. "No," he said calmly. "You once said money can't buy dignity. You were right. But love, real love, can earn it back." He reached into his pocket and placed a small velvet box on her work table. The crowd gasped. "Marry me, Nia Adesanya," he said softly. "Not because you need saving, but because you've already saved me." Her hands trembled. Her lips parted, but no sound came out. The market erupted. Screams, cheers, flashes, disbelief. She looked at him, this man of wealth, kneeling in dust. And for the first time, she understood what power looked like when it bowed to love. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes, Ethan, I will. Do you take this woman, Nia Adesanya, to be your lawful wedded wife?" Ethan's voice trembled slightly as he said, "With all that I am, and all that I have, I do." And just like that, the noise of the world faded into silence. The cameras flashed. The choir sang softly in Yoruba and English, their harmonies rising like a prayer over the crowd. Nia stood beside him, radiant, calm, wrapped in a gold-embroidered ivory gown. Her veil shimmered under the light, and in her bouquet, tied with silk, was a small metal object, her father's old thimble. Her voice didn't shake as she said, "I do, too." The moment the pastor declared them husband and wife, applause thundered through the hall. But above it all, Nia heard only one thing, the whisper of her father's voice in her heart. "Never despise small beginnings, my daughter. Greatness grows from humble hands." The wedding was the talk of the nation. Not because it was the grandest, though it glittered with chandeliers and lace flown in from Italy, but because of what it meant. The billionaire had married the shoemaker's daughter. Some called it madness. Others called it a miracle. But for Ethan and Nia, it was neither. It was simply love, love that had endured whispers, judgment, and headlines. After the ceremony, as they drove away in a white stretch car lined with gold ribbons, Nia looked out the window at the city she once struggled in. "Ethan," she said softly, "you know this doesn't end with us living rich and quiet, right? He smiled. I was hoping you'd say that. A month later, Ethan led Nia into a wide, empty building on the edge of Victoria Island. The space smelled of new paint and concrete. Sunlight poured through the tall glass windows, landing on rows of new machines. What is this? Nia asked, her voice small. He turned to her, eyes bright. It's yours, Nia. Adesanya and Daughter Leather Works. For a moment, she couldn't speak. He walked her through the factory floor, leather rolls stacked neatly, sewing machines gleaming, a large wooden sign waiting to be mounted on the wall. Your father repaired shoes that walked through life, Ethan said softly. Now you'll make the ones that carry dreams. Tears welled in her eyes. Ethan, I don't deserve this. He shook his head. No, Nia. You earned this. She touched one of the machines gently, the way she used to touch her father's old hammer. We won't just make shoes, she whispered. We'll make stories that walk. The weeks that followed were not easy. Machines broke down. Workers were slow to trust a new boss. The media mocked her again. Market girl can't handle a factory. But Nia didn't flinch. She rolled up her sleeves, tied her scarf, and worked side by side with her team. She cleaned leather, threaded needles, stayed past midnight fixing mistakes. Every morning, she repeated her mantra. She was not broken. She was building. Her passion was contagious. Soon, the workers began calling her Madam Nia. Under her leadership, the factory grew from a small startup to a thriving brand, exporting handcrafted shoes made from Nigerian leather to London, New York, and Dubai. And on every shoe sole, stitched neatly in gold thread, were the words, "Dignity in every stitch." Months later, Nia stood before her team at the grand opening of the completed factory. Workers, families, journalists, everyone gathered to celebrate. She stepped up to the microphone. This factory isn't just mine, she began. It belongs to every hand that works with honesty, every dream that begins small, every heart that refuses to bow. My father's bench stood in dust. Today, his name stands in gold. That's what love and dignity can do. Applause erupted, but she wasn't finished. And to my husband, Ethan, she said, turning toward him with tears in her eyes, thank you for reminding me that love doesn't rescue, it rebuilds. Ethan smiled, walked to her side, and whispered, and you reminded me that wealth isn't power, character is. That evening, as the celebration faded and the workers danced with their families, Ethan and Nia walked together through the quiet factory. They stopped by a glass display case near the entrance. Inside, resting on red velvet, was a small, worn hammer, her father's. Below it, a brass plate read, Adesanya and Daughter Leather Works, dignity in every stitch. Nia touched the glass gently. He'd be proud. He is, Ethan said softly. She turned to him and handed him a small box. Inside were a pair of custom-made black leather shoes. Inside each shoe, stitched in gold, was a single word. Rooted. He smiled, deeply, genuinely. Rooted, he repeated. That's what you made me, Nia. They danced right there on the polished floor, no music, no crowd, just the soft hum of machines and the faint smell of leather and polish.